Welcome to the Only Male Cruise Show, the podcast. I am the only Male Cruise. Be sure to hit the like button, share, subscribe, replay gang, leave a comment. You know I want to hear from you. Copyright disclaimer regarding fair use is in full effect. The views and opinions expressed in this show, you guessed it, they're all mine. Let's go to work. All right. Welcome to the Only Male Cruise Show, the podcast. I am the only male cruise. Okay, I'm not going to hold you long. Just want to bring this update. I haven't seen a whole lot of folks speaking on it as of yet. And surely I'm sure I'm not the first. However, we're going to get right into it. Bonjean has responded to Derrell's attorney's motion, and y'all give me just a minute here. All right, so Bonjean responded to Derrell's motion, and here we go. Okay, and I ain't mad at her. All right, shout out to Kimberly Black, Baby Shay in the house. Thanks y'all for pulling up, and folks in the bushes, thanks for pulling up as well. All right, so let's just get right into it. Today's show episode, Derrell, don't get so emotional. Damn. Yeah, Bonjean ain't playing. So, Bonjean files this reply to co-defendant Derrell's response to Kelly's motion for severance. Now, although Derrell takes no position on severance, he found it necessary to file an emotional 13-page response to Kelly's motion to sever, seemingly for no other purpose than to protect the legacy of Ed Jensen and feign incredulity at Kelly's legitimate concern about Mr. Glausman's potential conflict and its implications on a joint trial. Derrell's filing does not warrant much of a response, but several points must be made considering the histrionics. Okay? First, Derrell accuses Kelly of advancing falsehoods for the purpose of circumventing the court's denial of Kelly's motion for a continuance. Derrell can point to exactly 0 falsehoods in Kelly's motion. Derrell's counsel is entitled to have a different take on the record, but it does not follow that his self-serving views are truth. Moreover, Kelly has not renewed his motion for a continuance. Kelly accepts the court's ruling even if he disagrees with it. Presumably, Derrell understands that this court can grant severance by conducting a simultaneous severed trial, which would not require a continuance. Continuance or no continuance, undersigned counsel is going to protect Kel's interest in a fair trial because her loyalties are with him, not deceased criminal defense lawyers, no matter how legendary. Second, Derrell's claim that Kelly's motion to sever is pretextual to circumvent a continuance is meritless. Derrell's counsel, Vadim Glausman, seems to have forgotten about the 2 conversations he had with undersigned counsel, aka Jennifer Bonjean, about the issue of severance before Kelly filed a motion for continuance. During those conversations, Mr. Glausman adamantly refused to discuss Derrell's defense, expecting undersigned counsel to take his word that Derrell's defense would not be antagonistic to Cale's. Undersigned counsel questions how non-adversarial defenses would be possible, but Mr. Glossman declined to elaborate. Wonder why that was. Derrell's counsel has no obligation to share his defense theory with undersigned counsel, but undersigned also has no obligation to blindly accept a promise of harmony when the evidence suggests a strong possibility that either or both defendants would be prejudiced by a joint trial. Furthermore, as this court knows, Cale's prior counsel raised the possibility of severance long ago. Undersigned counsel had also had conversations with counsel for the co-defendant, June Brown, about the need for severance before Cales filed for a motion for a continuance. Those conversations were productive. Any competent attorney representing Kelly who has read the discovery in this case would understand the risk of Cale's co-defendants possibly being used as witnesses against him at joint trial. Cales would hardly be in a position to complain about it once trial begins. Undersigned counsel also told the AUSAs assigned to this case that she was contemplating filing a motion to sever when she met them to review evidence in this case on April 19th, 2022. And of course, Cales expressly stated in his motion for continuance that he was exploring the need to seek a severance. In short, Kelly's motion to sever is not an attempt to end-run the court's ruling on his continuance motion despite Derrell's outburst. Kelly's motion to sever is not controversial. It was raised as a possibility long ago and is unquestionably supported by the discovery record and defendant's investigation. Cale's motion is made in good faith, and Derrell knows it. Third, Derrell seems most offended that undersigned counsel has raised a legitimate concern about Glossman's potential conflict of interest and undersigned counsel's reference to Ed Jensen's public statements verifying Kelly's claim that his attorney-client relationship continued with Jensen beyond 2008 during the period that Glossman worked for Ed Jensen. Let me check out these comments real quick. Yeah. Bonjean's not playing. Shout out to everybody. Please hit the like button, share, subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you, everybody, for pulling up. Y'all know I appreciate you. Replay gang, leave a comment because you know I want to hear from you. Shout out to Kimberly Black, Baby Shay, Tiff West in the house, our beautiful Tiff West. Anita Anderson. Let's see. Just trying to shout out Shrink and Sharon in the house. Unique Thoughts. All right, y'all. All right. So Bonjean has referred to a newspaper article. She actually put the link in the motion. And I'm just going to go over some of the highlights of it with y'all. Okay. So this is the actual article that it was written March 8th or published March 8th, 2019 in the USA Today. And this is Jensen while he was still alive, where he was talking about Cales. And so I'll just read the article. As if R. Kelly didn't have enough legal woes, now his ex-lawyer, who saw him through child porn charges more than a decade ago, told a Chicago newspaper columnist that the R&B singer was guilty as hell. Ed Jensen, a famous Chicago defense attorney who says he's dying of cancer, might be in trouble for violating legal ethics rules, which say attorney-client privilege is sacrosanct and permanent unless the client lifts it. No doubt Kelly would not be thrilled that his ex-defense lawyer is commenting on his guilt. Now, the reason why Bonjean brought this article up is because she's saying that even legal scholars have stated that this was unethical and unprofessional. Um, so Steve Greenberg, who was Kell's attorney on that team for the New York trial, Steve Greenberg told USA Today that Jensen has been in and out of the hospital lately. When I asked him about the comments, he told me that he had no recollection of the conversation and he would never have said that because it would be completely improper and wrong. Cook County State's Attorney Kim Fox, spokeswoman, didn't return a call when they left a message. Okay. Um, Meanwhile, Jensen's comments sent shockwaves through the Cook County legal community for seemingly betraying his former client, who now, at that time, was facing 10 counts of aggravated criminal sexual abuse. He definitely violated his ethical responsibilities, says Monu Betty, a law professor at DePaul University who's been following the Kells case. Lawyers cannot reveal information learned during representation, especially a statement regarding a person's guilt. It was extraordinarily inappropriate. Clearly, Jensen violated his professional duties to his client. And the fact that Kells is no longer his client is completely immaterial and irrelevant, adds Chicago criminal defense attorney Andrew Stoltman. It's a huge breach, an electrifying turn of events. Jensen represented Kelly at least twice when he was on trial for child pornography in Chicago or Cook County 2008, and he was acquitted. And also when Kells was arrested on similar charges in 2003 in Polk County, Florida. So when Chicago Sun-Times columnist Neil Steinberg interviewed Jensen, and supposedly, y'all, this is supposed to be the person who snuck into the crib and nobody knew or whatever. That's in the last episode, which that doesn't even sound right. Anyway, but when Neil Steinberg interviewed Jensen in his Deerfield, Illinois home, he naturally asked him about Kell's latest case. Steinberg said, "Any insights into R. Kelly, the man, guilty as hell?" Question mark. Jensen replied, "He was guilty as hell. I don't think he's done anything inappropriate for years. I'll tell you a secret. I had him go to a doctor to get shots, libido killing shots. That's why he didn't get arrested for anything else." So Steinberg had held off on sharing the story because he didn't want to affect potential jurors. But after seeing the interview with Gayle King, in his mind, it no longer seemed a concern. So he released the story. Jensen also went on to say, "I can say whatever I want, but we've got to do it fast," he told Steinberg. "It would be nice to get it down so somebody knows besides me." All right. So the article goes on to say that, people who read this Chicago Sun-Times are people in affluent neighborhoods and, reasonable income, both black and white, and would probably be part of the jury pool. So, all right. So that's the article that Bonjean mentioned. And here's what she says about it. Derrell's diatribe also accused undersigned counsel of unfairly maligning Ed Jensen. Derrell's attorney's fixation with protecting the legacy of Ed Jensen is bizarre. Ed Jensen violated his duty of loyalty to Mr. Kelly when he declared publicly in the Sun-Times that Kelly was guilty as hell and that he had instructed Kelly to take libido suppression pills, all while Kelly was facing prosecution in numerous jurisdictions. This observation is not particularly provocative. Numerous ethics professors have commented on this egregious ethical breach. Mr. Jensen's health issues, of which Derrell's attorney seemed to have intimate knowledge, may have played a role in his lack of judgment, but that is irrelevant to the issues at hand. Kelly cited the interview to show that Jensen admitted to an ongoing attorney relationship with Kells after 2008, when he boasted that he kept Kelly out of trouble for 10 years. Derrell's counsel is simply upset that undersigned counsel has prioritized their client's interests over Jensen's reputation. Furthermore, contrary to Derrell's statements, undersigned counsel never claimed that the ARDC, which is the Attorney Registration and Disciplinary Commission, did not investigate the matter. So let me read that again so it's clear. Furthermore, contrary to Derrell's statements that undersigned counsel never claimed that the Attorney Registration and Disciplinary Commission did not investigate the matter, undersigned counsel has no idea what the ARDC did or did not do, although strangely, Derrell's counsel does. Undersigned counsel merely pointed out that the ARDC did not seem to have much of an appetite for addressing the ethical breach, since they did not even contact Mr. Kelly, who was the person impacted by Jensen's conduct. It's rather difficult to take any supposed ARDC investigation seriously when it didn't even involve contacting Kells to see if he wished to pursue a complaint. Derrell's attorneys seem to know far more than Kells about this alleged ARDC investigation, which is irrelevant in any event to whether Kells and Jensen had an attorney-client relationship that extended beyond 2008. All right, so that's a little side note. Bonjean goes further in this motion, and she states, Kells' claim of an ongoing attorney-client relationship is not premised on Jensen's statements to the Sun-Times reporter. Kelly himself contends that he maintained an attorney-client relationship with Jensen long after 2008, and that the relationship involved regularly consulting with Jensen about legal matters for roughly a decade after his 2008 acquittal. Jensen's statements merely corroborate Kelly's assertion. Derrell's suggestion that undersigned counsel fabricated this issue out of whole cloth is preposterous. Let me get to the comments and see what y'all talking about. Corey Simmons, Judge Ann Donnelly needs to follow the law and give R. Kelly a new trial or acquittal on the Second Circuit should, and she will look bad for not doing it earlier. Absolutely. Shout out to 50 Plus, all about the 50 plus life. Let's see. Shouty said, if the judge wants to, Jensen interview can be used. It's called a deathbed confession, and it is admissible in the court of law. Yeah, but because Jensen was his attorney, it's not even a confession. It's more of him violating his ethical responsibilities, his fiduciary responsibilities as an attorney. But if Jensen was being, if he was being held in this thing, then they could refer to it. If Jensen was a defendant, they could refer to it as a deathbed confession. So, but good point. I feel you. All right. So she says, Derrell's suggestion that the undersigned counsel just made all this up is preposterous. In addition to conversations with her client, undersigned counsel has read the entire Eastern District New York record and has made it far enough in the Northern District Illinois discovery to know that Mr. Kelly has faced a constant stream of legal issues since 2008, some of which brought him to Mr. Jensen for advice. McDavid has worked himself up into a lather simply because Kells has identified a potential conflict on the part of Glausman that would prejudice Kells at a joint trial. Kells' motion makes clear that if Glausman worked for Jensen while Kelly and Jensen still had an attorney-client relationship, a potential conflict exists. Notably, Glausman does not deny that he worked for Jensen during 2012 through 2018, nor does he offer any factual basis to dispute that Kells and Jensen maintained their attorney-client relationship past 2008. Undersigned counsel cannot get into Mr. Glausman's head and was not present for any conversations that may have occurred in the infamous law offices of Ed Jensen. But it doesn't require an ethics professor to explain that Glausman could be in a conflicted position if he is in possession of privileged communications that occurred during Kells' attorney-client relationship with Jensen. For example, if Jensen felt at liberty to make the statements he did to a Sun-Times reporter, it is hardly a stretch that he might have shared privileged communications with his associates, including an associate who represents a co-defendant who may be antagonistic to Kelly. And I know I mentioned that last time, that if I worked in the office and a famous case like R. Kelly, on a slow day, yeah, I'd be all up in them files. I'd be trying to see, what time is it? What's tea? Corey Simmons says, how do you cross-examine a dead man? Alvera Ward, something like that would only be allowed if Jensen was admitting to a crime he himself committed. On top of that, it sounds made up. We don't really know if Kels took meds for such things. So just for clarification, Jensen, let me post a picture of the man real quick, y'all. This is Jensen. And he was Kels' attorney in the 2008 in the beginning. He was Kels' attorney. And so this is the man who passed away of some level of cancer. I think they call it some type of cancer in the lymph nodes or something. And he's the one that gave the interview to the Sun-Times reporter. And in that interview, he said, yeah, Kel's guilty as hell. And if you want this information, come on and get it quick. So somebody else has it. And this is what Bonjean is talking about. That's part of what she's talking about. And so when she's saying here in this motion that Derrell's attorneys seem to really want to just protect the legacy of Ed Jensen, they're saying, hey, the man was ill. He doesn't remember what he said. He didn't have clarity. He had dementia. But he's making all these clear statements here. So Bonjean is basically saying, I'm not concerned about his legacy. My fiduciary responsibilities are to my client, R. Kelly. So whatever the man had or whatever he didn't have, even legal scholars are saying that what he did was unprofessional, unethical. All right. And that's why she said here, if Ed Jensen felt at liberty to make the statements he did to a Sun-Times reporter, it's hardly a stretch that he might think that he might have shared privileged communications with his associates, including an associate who represented a co-defendant that may be antagonistic to Kelly. It is also a reasonable assertion that Glossman owes duty of loyalty to Kelly because Jensen's duty of loyalty is imputed to him. So Glossman is Derrell's attorney. Glossman was also in the employ of Jensen, who represented Kels in the beginning. And now they're trying to argue that, well, he didn't have anything to do with, when Derrell's current attorney Glossman worked for Jensen, he never had anything to do with the Kels case. So he's cool. He doesn't know anything. But Bonjean is saying that it is also a reasonable assertion that Glossman owes a duty of loyalty to Kelly because Jensen's duty of loyalty is imputed to Glossman because he worked for Jensen. She cites a law or a rule or whatever, and this is what it says. If one member of a private firm has a per se conflict of interest, that conflict is imputed, means everybody's covered by it, to all other members of the law firm, regardless of whether any of those other members had any personal involvement in the conflicting representation. So, and that's Illinois law. So while Jensen's attorney wrote that, shade-filled motion, you can't fight the law unless, I'm sure they're going to try. Anyway, Derrell's attorneys are free to argue otherwise, and the government and this court will have to decide what to do with this information. Kels is not moving to disqualify Glossman. Kelly has identified this potential conflict as a basis for severance, nothing more. Lastly, Derrell's vitriolic response merely underscores the likelihood of antagonistic defenses. Undersigned counsel may not be as familiar with discovery as Derrell's counsel claims to be, but she apparently is familiar enough to file a motion to dismiss that they overlooked and joined, and to know that there is ample evidence to show that Derrell was in complete control of Kell's finances and helped himself to the fruits of Kell's labor. The fact that Derrell intends to vehemently deny this claim simply shows that it is possible that either both co-defendants could suffer prejudice at a joint trial. The government presumably has something to say about this, and the court will rule on the motion. Defendant will accept the ruling. That's how litigation works. Conclusion? For the foregoing reasons, defendant respectfully asks this court to sever his trial from co-defendant Derrell's trial, and further to sever counts 10 through 13 from the remainder of the indictment. Now, we're going to see what happens next. If Derrell is going to argue back, are they going to go back and forth? Is the judge going to jump in and say, I'll accept one more final motion from both sides, and at that time, I'll go ahead and submit a ruling? I mean, it's just popping. It's popping. Alvera says, didn't Jensen's son say this was a lie? Yeah, so according to infamous Sylvia, when she was on the show the other day, she said that Jensen's son came out and said that, his father didn't mean that he was ill. He was under, medication, this, that, and 2/3. The whole point in bringing the Jensen thing up, as far as Bonjean is concerned, is the fact that Derrell's current attorney used to work in that office with Jensen. And I think that and basically what she's saying in this motion is just based on the fact that there's a conflict of interest. And I read that Illinois law about conflict of interest, that if one attorney works in an office, then conflict is imputed or added or attributed to everybody, no matter what. I think she would be satisfied if the judge would just sever the cases. And remember, in the last motion, Derrell's attorney said, will there be antagonistic defenses? Maybe. Should this thing be severed? We don't think so, because that's what he said. Derrell doesn't have a problem with severing it, but don't sever it. We asked the judge, wait a minute, I got it right here. Let me read it to you verbatim real quick. Hold up. He says, for the foregoing reasons, defendant respectfully asks this court to... wait, hold on. That's the wrong motion. My desk looks like what? And... okay. So that ain't on my desk. So it's still all good. Anyway, they don't want to sever it. That's what Derrell's attorney said in the end. It's in the other video. Don't sever it. We're saying, Judge, don't do it. So like Bonjean said, hey, whatever you decide to do with it, government and judge, that's on y'all. But this is what we're asking for. So, she's stating some good law. She's citing some good cases. So with that being said, if they don't do it, then hey, maybe this will be grounds for a appeal in the event that Kells is found guilty, and we just hope that doesn't happen. So for the most part, y'all, that's really it. I don't know if anybody has any questions or concerns about the motion. If you do, go ahead and drop something in the comments real quick, and I'll get to them. But I do want to shout out everybody for pulling up. Thank you so much. Fat Ma TV, thanks for pulling up. Let's see here. How could you cry? Corey, you be posting up some. Corey said, how can you cross-examine a dead man? Yeah, you can't. You cannot. Shawty said if the judge wants to, yeah. Let me see. Hold on. Trying to get to these comments before we cut out. All right. Happy Sunday. Shout out Auntie Nisi. Happy Sunday. Shout out to all y'all. Shrink and Sharon. All right, y'all. Well, that's it. That is the podcast. Oh, you know what? This is what I wanted to share with you real quick. And I'm just calling this a side note because there was a motion that came out. Corey says, I wonder if the judge will grant Bonjean the records to the leaked phone calls and email. Ooh. Yeah, we keep an eye on that one, Corey. Absolutely. Good question. I'm wondering that too. But in the judge in the New York case did, and I think that stuff has to be in by the 25th. She wants both sides, our favorite AUSA, Elizabeth Keddes and Bonjean for the New York trial. She wants both of them to answer some questions that actually Bonjean had brought up in a motion really close to when she took over this case. And one of the issues was about the California Health Code. So this California Health Code that has to be addressed by a letter by both sides, no more than 3 pages, according to Judge Ann Donnelly in New York. This is where Bonjean said, wait a minute, this is the law that she says. Y'all try to charge the man, hold him accountable for a law that wasn't even in effect. And what it is that this health code law was actually repealed in 2017. And they charged Kells in 2019. And the thing about it is, and I don't have it here on this board, but the way it works is if the law has been repealed, you can't charge somebody with an old law for a current thing. If so, like if what he did was in 2015 or 2002 or, year one, if you're trying him or charging him in 2019 after the law has been repealed, you can't hold that law against him. And so Bonjean clearly made a good point because this is one of the things that Judge Ann Donnelly wants both sides to write that letter on. So I just wanted to bring that up. And then also, when Kells was indicted, one of the things, and this is kind of crazy because one of the things in the indictment says criminal forfeiture allegation as to count 1. So basically what this paragraph says that you see on the screen is, and it says when the defendant is found guilty, which I hate that because y'all don't know if he's going to be found guilty or not. But it says when the defendant is found guilty, we take in everything that was associated with this enterprise, with the RICO. So if they got charges for Kells while he was actively R&B singing and touring and generating money that is alleged that Derrell, had his way with, they can take all that, which means, I presume, which also means any royalties that he would have coming. So they not only want Kells busted, broke, and disgusted. That is just doing way and serving a life sentence. So that's just a lot. It's definitely something to be keeping an eye on as far as this trial. There's so many different facets going on. And again, they don't have clean hands. They don't have clean evidence. And I'll tell you this too. I found this article where apparently, I'm not going to, I'm concerned to discuss it on YouTube. So this might be something I'll do on Station Head, but there's just a lot of twists and turns. So anyway, y'all, check the comments one more time and then I'm going to let y'all go. I ain't trying to keep y'all. I know y'all got stuff to do. R. Kelly might be able to use the California law up if the lawyers didn't bring it up in their trial but that still proves ineffective counsel. Yep. R. Kelly's lawyer should, they should have brought that up. Did they even know? That's my thing. Auntie Nisi said, railroading to me. Let's see. All right, y'all. Well, that's it. That is the podcast. Be sure to like, share, subscribe. Replay gang, leave a comment. You know I want to hear from you. And until next time, y'all, we will see ya when we see ya. Welcome to the Only Male Cruise Show, the podcast. I am the only Male Cruise. Be sure to hit the like button, share, subscribe. Replay gang, leave a comment. You know I want to hear from you. Copyright disclaimer regarding fair use is in full effect. The views and opinions expressed in this show, you guessed it, they're all mine. Let's go to work.